Hello, welcome to Let the Light in TV. I'm Craig here with you today. Now we're going to be talking about the Fujifilm XF 200mm f2 lens. I use this on the Fujifilm X-H2, which is an apsc format camera body. Now there's a bunch of letters that go on with this lens. Don't worry about it. We'll discuss those features of what the letters stand for anyway, and it's just going to confuse you with a bunch of letters. But back to the lens. This is a $5,000 US lens, so quite a whopper of a price tag on it. But with that, it also comes with this claim. It is the first telephoto lens for the X series that has an f2 maximum aperture. First telephoto lens with an f2 maximum aperture. So it's got quite the specs list here today. Let's talk about the build quality. Let's jump into that. First of all, it is dust and weather resistant. It's capable of operating in environments as cold as -10 degrees Celsius. It is also weatherproof. It's got weather sealing in it. And I had it out in the rain, and it was raining really quite good that day, and it handled the weather just fine. Now this is a huge lens. You can take a look at the camera body mounted onto the lens itself right here, and you can see it's big and it's heavy. And fortunately, and of course, obviously they have the tripod mount. It's an Arca Swiss compatible dovetail groove mount, and it supports a 1/4 inch and a 3/8 inch tripod screws. Okay, let's move on to autofocus. Autofocus is good. However, sometimes I think it should have been better. For example, I had some Canadian geese flying across the sky in the distance, and they weren't so far that they wouldn't be registerable. But anyways, I pointed the camera at the geese flying across the sky, and it did some focus hunting in and out, in and out, in and out, and then it just gave me a flash red autofocus error. It didn't pick up the geese at all. Well, for an X-H2 body and a $5,000 lens, that doesn't leave me very impressed. Now, the second time I just pulled back up, tried to get it again, it did a little focus hunt, and then it locked onto the geese, and it held focus no problem. And whenever it does get the focus, it's fine. Although I will say, and this is kind of a separate argument, that in my opinion, Sony has a superior autofocus system. So you're working with an inferior autofocus system, in my opinion, on the Fujifilm body and with this lens, so that's gonna inhibit it a little bit. But for paying $5,000 for a lens with an X-H2 body, this isn't a poor equipment here. This should certainly be capable of doing that. So that was genuinely a little bit disappointing that it couldn't pick that up. But overall, it did find focus accurately and quickly, and normally it did it just fine. This was an exception to what normally occurred. Now, another funny thing that kind of did happen is I was shooting some Canadian geese out on the river here, and I don't know if this is a camera body issue or a lens issue or maybe a hybrid combination of errors here, but it was trying to tell me that the goose's rear end was in fact its face, and so that gave me a little kick. But overall, autofocus is good. There were some exemptions to the rule, absolutely. Those exemptions were disappointing, but overall it finds focus quickly and accurately, and it does do an impressive job. I think Sony's line has a better autofocus system, but for what you're dealing with Fujifilm, it did do a very good job. Now, does this lens contain focus breathing? The answer is yes. Here's an example right here. And I don't think this is going to be necessarily a huge turnoff off of this lens, because I don't think, and I could be wrong here, but I don't necessarily think that focus pulling is really going to be something that you're doing quite frequently with this lens, so I don't think it's really going to get in your way. Now, the focus motor within the lens is audible. Here's a clip. So it's quiet, but it is slightly audible. So you can hear the focus pull, but I don't think it's gonna get in the way of any type of recording of audio or anything. It's not gonna get in the way. I mean, I was using it and outside it's not even audible. It was only within the quiet of this office space right here that you could really hone in and listen to it. So the noise is there, but it's not going to ruin anything for you. Chromatic aberrations. Overall, it does look great. Again, this is a $5,000 lens, so it's going to look very impressive. Lens flares. Here's what lens flares looks like. Now, of course, it comes with a huge lens hood that is basically going to help you eliminate any flares happening within whatever you are shooting. In everything that I did, and I used it in certainly a wide variety of lighting scenarios and pointing it, you know, in different compass directions at the sun, with the sun. So I never got into a place where I was struggling with lens flares. It's only whenever I really was going out to try and get lens flares that lens flares happen. So it does come in a little bit hot, absolutely, but overall, you know, pop the lens hood on there, lens flares aren't going to be an issue for you. Okay, so let's start to wrap things up here, close this out. I think that this lens is overall incredible. It genuinely is. I mean, you're talking about, you know, a maximum aperture of f2. This is really like a nature photographer, videographer's dream. The optical stabilization, actually, I haven't mentioned it till now. The optical stabilization is incredible. It comes with a 5-stop image stabilization, and handheld footage is completely usable. In fact, a lot of what you saw today is handheld footage. I was in situations where maybe I was on a walk or something and I didn't want to haul along a tripod with me, and so everything I shot was handheld. Another thing to note is that this lens does come with a 1.4 times extension little ring that you can pop in between the camera body and the lens. And that's going to make it up to a 280 millimeter lens. And so, you know, going in at 280 handheld, the image stabilization was genuinely incredible. I mean, I'm, you know, look at this footage, you can see that I'm shooting these birds and it's steady. It is usable footage, and really image stabilization blew me away that I could handhold it and it was steady and it was actually usable. Maximum aperture of f2 means you can really isolate your subject, and so no matter what you are shooting, you can use it in a wide variety of lighting conditions. I think it is an incredible lens for nature photographers and videographers, but also I was thinking this could be really useful in weddings as well to shoot through, and you've got that maximum aperture of f2 and you can really isolate your subjects, give them that creamy bokeh background. It looks good. I will warn you, this lens is very heavy though. Carrying this around for a while, depending on your workout type of lifestyle, this may contribute as you're weightlifting for the day. It's heavy. Bring a tripod along if you can, or at least a monopod, because holding it there, I mean, I had some swans out on a lake and I was holding it, trying to shoot it, and for, I don't know, I was probably there holding up the camera 10-15 minutes. Man, it hurts the arm after a little bit. I'm not trying to verify myself as a wimp or anything, but it's a heavy lens. But wrapping it up today, this Fujinon 200mm f2 lens is genuinely very incredible. It's a beast. It's a beast. Yeah, it's got a couple of flaws here and there. I wish that the autofocus was as strong as the Sony system, and it's heavy, and yeah, it does have some focus breathing, but this is really going to isolate your subjects. The image stabilization is incredible for handheld shooting. The maximum aperture is going to allow you to use it within a lot of different lighting situations. It comes with a 1.4 times, so it can boost you in from 200 to 280 millimeters. This is a sweet lens. The biggest drawback is the $5,000 price tag. So that's up to you. If you're willing to invest in this piece of equipment, the links are down below. If not, I hope you enjoyed the video today, and I hope that it was informative to you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care, and remember to let the light in.